Chapter 4: Parallel World. The next couple of weeks go by as I gradually get introduced to the prison system and the judicial process, or for that matter of fact, what goes by that name. Office call, abbreviated OC, is a sanitized name for the meeting with inmates in the prison, allowed to a limited number of relatives and friends, typically 3 to 4 persons once a week. During normal times, as I'm told, such calls are done in private, not this time around. Under the watchful eyes, the prison guards, overseen by shadowy intelligence people, such meetings with one's near and dear ones are now conducted in full public view for a brief 15 to 20 minutes. My family came to see me: Asma, Mridula, Duli, Fahmi, and Babu, the young lawyer who has made himself part of the family. His regard and concern for me, a godsend, one of those rare experiences in life when someone from the wilderness stretches out a hand to a stranger. Time quickly passes in exchanging essential notes, mutual advice, and some plans for the future. My writ petition in the High Court is being prepared. Barrister Rafiq is enthused about my past record, particularly during our War of Liberation. Friends have been calling, comforting my family, to bear my absence. Buri's insistence to come and see me. It is time to part. I kiss Duli and Ridula, who turns away holding back tears, which made Asma nervous, her moist eyes about to roll. Duli looked blank with watery eyes, Fahmi beside her, a farewell thrust upon them by an unjust system, made cruel in the hands of fledgling's evil power, a parting never conceived by anyone when I had finished this part of my life, to my mind, and shared by many with pride, dignity, and trust. What a twist of fate. Mridula had just crossed her teens. I have managed, occasionally though, to be a mentor in their study group of IBA class, although at times they resented my intrusion and long lectures. But then there are occasions when Mridula, Ahmed, Ishraq, Saad, Sanjana, Anika, and Laila would seek quick guidance from me on economics, statistics, business, and I would have those opportunities to join their world, to be one of them, and relish the conversation, arguments, and comments from them, still revisiting my many sunny youth and its warmth. Mridula's tears told me that they all missed me, she more than anybody, missing one who would call her out to announce the arrival of the full moon through the window. Breakfast time for birds asking for bananas at the balcony. Admonish her loud voice, particularly when in disagreement with her mom or dismissing her sister on any pretext. She truly missed a friend she could confide in, and yet fight, suspend conversation after an argument, and then look for a way to break the vow of silence. How I wish she comes out stronger to face the world awaiting her and does not have any lasting wound arising on the working of fate. In the afternoon, I sit on the veranda and take a broad sweep of the place. A few kites, white, red, blue, green, and purple, are strapped in the trees, their lines tangled in the branches. They are the reminders of friendly games lost out in the sky, the trinkets that could well have been causes for scuffles among friends in our teenage years, competing to climb the trees to get them, and are now fluttering in the safety of incarceration. Kite flying and prison, freedom and denial are bound together in the age dating back millennia. This city too has long tradition of kite flying that is celebrated each year as Dhakaiya Festival, when the southern sky of this vast metropolis is filled with tiny dots, reaching out the vast emptiness of blue sky that beacons the young and old minds alike to its mysterious and never-ending expanse, to the gates of the heaven. But the innocence can be marred by misfortune that befalls the unwary. Flashes of the novel Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini crosses my mind. The tumultuous years of Afghanistan through the times of King Zahir Shah, the Soviet invasion, the mass exodus of refugees, and finally, the arrival of Taliban's turbulent swath of history, its episodes running through monarchy, totalitarianism, anarchy, and fundamentalism. The upheavals that came with them and routed all the borders, wrecked the Afghan soul with ordinary folks and any of the controls over their lives, struggled to triumph over the forces of violence and tyranny, reclaim whatever was still left in life. On the next day, after a long 3-hour wait, the Dhaka magistrate announced that the case has been transferred to the special court at Shere-Bangla Nagar, set up to speedily deal with such cases. I don't have to be produced here anymore. I need to go to the restroom, and a policeman accompanies me 1 flight up to the corner. As I entered the room, a closed space, wet with days of overflowing urine, I'm struck with the strong, pungent ammonia smell that sends an instant spin in the head. The acrid air enters not only through the nostrils, but travels instantly through my mouth, the eyes, even the ears. I try to hold my breath, but I eventually give in. Is there no end to punishment? Alone in the prison van, I travel back. Names of streets float past the narrow rooftop opening. Johnson Road, Aga Sadek Road, Bacharam Deuri, Noab Yusuf Road, Abdul Ghani Road, Abul Hasnat Road, Mahul Tuli, English Road, French Road, Urdu Road. Names fuses together to tell me the stories of the city that go back centuries, a storyline I had missed all these years. I try organizing my life in prison. To start, morning exercise, brisk walking to and fro in the compound of the cell that is barely 20-25 yards in length. I pick up a conversation with the guard standing by. He's from remote Sherpur and talks with pride about his 6th grader son who will soon move to Azimuddin High School, a century-old school of repute among the few set up by the Muslims in this part of Bangladesh. He proudly narrates the school of how his uncle, who joined as assistant headmaster of the school through an open competition, his application for the job, handwritten in English, so impressed the selection board that they asked him to join right away. His aunt, no less accomplished, is a teacher from Titumir College at Bonani. My heart ached at the mention of Bonani, where I lived only days ago, and yet it sounded so far away, so soon. I look up towards the west, beyond the prison wall, rows of building outside amongst hugging the perimeter, separated by Urdu Road. I imagine people in freedom there and things they can do. Walk down the stairs, hail a rickshaw, or just walk up the restaurant, go to the grocery store, or pull out the cell phone or call someone. Small trophies of freedom mean so much, craved and cared for only by those who are denied. Fundamental rights, abstract in the classroom and textbooks, themes of lofty debates in the halls of parliament and courts, come home to me in simple delights, chores that we all take for granted. Venturing out of Rupsha compound is an experience. In the veranda of Jamuna, I see a few inmates in handcuffs, their raised hands tied to the nails, on the wall carved crucified, punishment for disobedience. Others are squatting meekly to be challaned to various destinations. At the yard, wheelbarrows, which presumably carry supplies, are parked in a line, with their routes written like bus lines. Jamuna to Meghna, Meghna to Madhumati, and the enormous gruel kitchen. Not afar is a silent testimony to the unfair deal meted out many years ago. I try to piece together the story of Makku Shah. Long ago, there was an inmate serving life term in the prison. It has been whispered that he had been wrongly convicted. Makku made no big fuss about it and resigned to the long sentence. He had a reclusive life, mostly busy with prayers and other religious rites. His piety was known all around. One day he made an unusual request to the jailer as he was passing by, an opportunity to say his Friday prayer outside, in the Badshahi mosque next door. It has been many years he has not said his prayers in a mosque and did not know whether he would live long enough for another occasion. An irate jailer did not even feel like responding and brushed him aside. Later the jailer, saying his Friday prayers in the same mosque, turned around and saw Makku Shah sitting next to him, then disappearing instantly. The jailer rushed back in the jail, only to find Makku sitting underneath a tree in the yard of the prison. He kept the story to himself. Makku Shah died in prison. He requested that he be buried along the jail wall with an entrance for outsiders to come and visit and pray for him. The jail authority partly complied but did not risk an entrance from outside. One morning, they found the wall had collapsed, making an opening to Nazimuddin Road. After a tense meeting, the jail authority decided to move the perimeter wall backward, leaving the graveyard outside, accessible to all. Now, one can only reach Makku Shah's tomb from outside the jail wall, a symbolic defiance, the conviction that many thought was miscarriage of justice. People throng Makku Shah's grave, turned into a mazar, and seek divine pardon and blessings through him. Each day, before the morning starts, garlands of flowers are sent to Makku Shah's tomb by the jail authority to honor him, show respect that was denied to him in life, and more importantly, seek reculpation for the wrong done to him. The sun has just made its appearance over Jamuna through the winter mist like a crimson teep, just a notch higher between the eyebrows, the hallmark of our feminine heritage. Many such winter mornings were spent in the golf courses in better times. A guard takes notice of my inquisitive stroll, rudely turns me away and asks me to go back to my cell, a stark reminder of my status and indignity imposed. The sun slowly makes its way over to the roof of the death row cells, shining through the leafy heads of mango trees across, a teenager acquiring youth of warmth and vigor, and about to transform into a fiery ball which had evoked awes from human beings for millennia. When nothing around us existed, when men barely showed up on the face of the earth, the vista of morning sun transforming itself to what many thought was the apparition of God did not change. It floated by in the same fashion as it did today. Only the onlookers changed on the aisles of life. We see endless ends of its daily journey through fiery youth, the last hurrah of a life of vigor in varied hues, before its submission to the crawling darkness of night. But one day this journey will be over, in the last and final explosion, its collapse into singularity, a deadly non-existence, with all its companions, earth included. But till then, the daily honeymoon with the earth continues. Why am I here at 63? Fate, destiny, collateral liability, or a mere withered leaf caught in the torrents of gushing stream? Except as a young officer when I jumped the secure board of elite civil service in response to the call of our armed struggle to liberate the motherland, I have always been, as evaluated by my superiors, a professional and disciplined civil servant, and a good Samaritan. By a strange coincidence, 1/11, the day of the caretaker government took over, is my birthday. Do horoscopes have something to offer as a guide? A year back, when we were in the brink of anarchy, I almost knew what was coming over Bangladesh. From my intuition, my own analysis of events, and sense of history, with the caretaker government's assumption of power came a sense of relief. For some, euphoria. As the months rolled by, the reformist mask of the caretaker government began to come apart and a more worrying design seemed to be surfacing. In August 2007, I prepared a note, more appropriately what is known in the book of business as SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat, which I shared with my colleagues at UNDP. The conclusions were that unless caretaker government started rolling back, announcing a general election, it would come upon a bind, hard to extricate. But I was myopic. A more sinister design was being executed, depoliticizing Bangladesh and replacing its fragile democratic institution by civil society government with full support of the army, an absurd experimentation of perverse minds, reinforced by the greed of power. That was when I thought of myself as an onlooker of passing events from the gallery till I was thrown into the ring. Never for a moment did I think that it would be part of an unfolding experiment. Jahangir, our Faltu, joined me in the afternoon with stories of the prison. A blind prisoner who gambles regularly, a man without arms, is damn good at carom. An old convict is given an easy task of punishment, to kill flies that lands on brown sugar left on the floor to entice them. Jahangir will take me around the campus tomorrow for the first-hand exposure. This compound, and for that matter, this part of the city, has a checkered history. The year 1538 saw an expeditionary force of foreign troops land on the banks of Buriganga, sent by Sher Shah, who had seized the fledgling Mughal empire of Babur. A fort was built around 1545 on the river front for easy access to riverine transportation. After almost a century, when the Mughals had secured their foothold over northern India, General Man Singh made a bid for his part of eastern India in 1620, and gradually a vibrant city come up with bazaars, caravanserais, mosques and madrasas to become the Mughal capital of Bengal under the Emperor Jahangir, and this eponymous city, Jahangirnagar. Subedar Ibrahim Khan built a fort where the jail stands, complete with a mint, a court, and a mahal for entertainment. Lalbagh Fort, Shahi Masjid, Baro Katra, Choto Katara, and other relics of the past sprinkled around by the by-lanes and the narrow alleys of Old Dhaka, a stone throw away from the cell, brings back memories of centuries. Then came the twist of fate. Following the victory of the British East India Company at the Battle of Polashi, secured through duplicity, Lieutenant Swilton, the company deposed Mughal Naib Nizam of Bengal in 1765, renovating and converting the old fort into a jail to firm their grip over Bengal and later over the whole of India. Since then, it has retained its identity. As evening dawns, strings of tiny light glitters on the roof of one building on the Freedom side, Urdu Road, a wedding maybe. The wafting smell of love and life of the saffron biryani, distant though it may be, carries the mute assurance of bridging a fractured existence. It is tea time for Rupsha. In dim light, the cellmates get together, sitting on cots in circle, holding steaming cup of tea, quietly sipping with devotion, a silent ritual, recalling scenes from my childhood. More than half a century ago, it's tea time in Piliakandi village, our Nanar Bari, nestling on the far northeastern corner of East Pakistan, bordering Assam. In the evening, Nani, clothed in a white sari with veil drawn over her head, her sharp hook nose showing out prominently, is sitting with her daughters on a high cot, each with a cup in folded hands as if in supplication. Their husband conversations, flickering light hanging from above, throwing shadows on the walls, dancing in mute resonance, lend a mystic aura to the scene of a seance of sort. Bathed in the silvery showers of a pale winter moon, we are playing an improvised game in the inner courtyard lacquered with clay that shines with an aural gleam. The trees and the bamboo bushes afar, forming the dark forbidden boundaries inhabited by ghosts and evil spirits. Muffled sounds of the engine breaks our pace. The grown-up among us, my Mejo Bhai, whispers, while we huddle at a distance, that there are jeeps carrying Pakistani army men. We are scared hearing the heavy steps of their boots. Mejo Bhai explains that they have come to meet the people from India, whom they encourage and help to create troubles here. Soon, they are gone and we get back to our games. Visiting Nanabari once in a couple of years is a pilgrimage for us. In a boat, we start from Sylhet on a chilly December night. We curl up together under the blanket as the smooth roll of the boat lull us to sleep. We are roused in the middle of the night at the heated altercation of my father with someone afar. The river boundary between India and East Pakistan, half of it belonging to each country. The border guards on the Indian side are complaining that we have crossed over to their side, while my father insists that we didn't. We are threatened with a gunfire if we persist, to which my father responds by taking out his double-barrel gun. My mother screams and we are all mortified, but then the whole matter is amicably resolved. Morning ushers our much-expected arrival. Still it is hour to go. One stout boatman goes to the bank holding the goon, a rope tied to the mast of the boat. On the steep bank he trudges along, pulling the boat at snail's pace, adding to our impatience. The river is narrowing during the winter and the farmers have planted mustard along the banks, fences separating their fields. In rapture, we watch the veil of mist is whisked away with the rising sun, and the yellow carpet of flowers appears, rolling down both the banks, waving gently in the breeze. Through each turning of the bend, the meandering river holds us the promise of destination, and yet we wait. Suddenly the landmark, Sharifganj Bazar, showing up high on the bank, and we scream aloud. Before the boat is well tethered to the bank, we jump out, each one trying to beat the other, and scurrying up the scented path, the mustard fields to our betrothed land. February 3rd turned out to be eventful. After an early breakfast in a packed prison van, we headed for the special court, set up to adjudicate the cases speedily. And what a location to pick! The annex of the parliament, representing democracy and the will of the people, a building often used by tourists as one of the finest work of Louis Khan. Is it an indictment of politicians or even a democratic order? A more sinister design at play? The van rolled out of the confines of Old Dhaka, horns blaring, warding off all the traffic on the way. It moved rather fast through the narrow alleys of the Dhaka Medical College and then on Dhaka University, ushering us into an open space from the pigeonhole. Suddenly I realized that I was about to pass by the IBA building, Mridula's school. It was 9:15 a.m. and she could well be in the class. I stood up and looked through the grilled opening of the van and got a glimpse of where she could be. I wanted to call out and say, "Mridula, here I go," holding to the prison van. My eyes wet, my vision blurred. I got only a glimpse of the world denied to me which, so lovingly, I owned and was owned by me. Soon we arrived at Sher-e-Bangla Nagar, where the Parliament building was located. A fleet of vehicles of law enforcing agencies lined up in formation, cameras on tripods, looking like sharpshooter guns and rows of barbed wire barricades. A war zone, a scene that was more outdoor set of a movie than a real-life call. I was whisked away alone by the police and into the courtroom. I caught a glimpse of Duli in black coat, looking like a lawyer. Has she impersonated to get the entry? I waved at her and then moved dazed along the rows of lawyers, donning black gowns, shook hands, exchanged pleasantries, then walked up to the dock and sat on one of the chairs, the other one for former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Months earlier, in retirement, I was in India lecturing on the experience and success story of Bangladesh in solving its power problems through innovative solutions involving the private sector, the same initiative for which both Sheikh Hasina and I were being put on trial. After the job was done in Delhi, I chose to travel to Udaipur, the romantic city of Rajasthan in India, famed for its palaces, lakes and temples. I chose to visit Nimach Mata Temple, located high up in the hills overlooking Udaipur. As I was trudging uphill, a call came from home, from Mridula. Abba, they had arrested Sheikh Hasina and literally dragged her out from her residence. I stood shell-shocked on my stony path leading up to the temple. I heard of this ersatz allegation that the caretaker government was trying to put together against Sheikh Hasina, but had brushed them aside as a sham and more of a propaganda than any serious pursuits. I was so wide off the mark. Sheikh Hasina's life, her tragedies, and triumph are of epic proportions. Eldest in the family of 2 daughters, 3 sons of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib Rahman, Sheikh Hasina, as also rest of the family have been intimate onlookers of the saga of Bangabandhu, was the incarnation of soul, the symbol of aspiration of what emerged as Bangladesh. Bangabandhu spent most of his youth in confines of jail as a political prisoner, while his family treaded wearily along, never short of love that was due to him. His dream that inspired millions to take up arms against the organized army from Pakistan, hell-bent in suppressing Bengali Liberation War, came true on 16 December 1971, when close to 100,000 Pakistani military personnel surrendered, an ignominious end to their hubris, their pursuit of domination and exploitation of eastern Pakistan. The hero of Bengali nationalism, fondly christened as Bangabandhu, meaning friend of Bengal, became the father of the nation. While he focused on building a country out of the ashes and ruins of scorched earth policy of the retreating army, the wet earth smelling of blood of millions and resettling 10 of millions of returning refugees who had been forced out of their own land, the conspirators were planning to avenge their defeat. Less than 4 years later, on a fateful night, on 15th August 1975, they assassinated President and the architect of Bangladesh at his residence. He had chosen not to move to official quarters of the president. Sheikh Hasina lost 18 of her family members, her father, mother, 3 brothers, including Russell, who was only 8 years old, and her expecting sister-in-law. The assassins wanted to rid Bangladesh of any potential leadership that could take up the reins of the absence of Bangabandhu. an echo of macabre plan of Pakistani collaborators implemented through the last days of the war when they selectively picked and executed intellectuals of the new country, literateurs, artists, doctors, academics, and journalists. On November 3rd, they went inside the jail in the middle of the night and killed 4 national leaders who had been arrested after the assassination of Bangabandhu: Syed Nazrul Islam, Tajuddin Ahmed, Captain Mansur Ali, A.H.M. Kamruzzaman, all senior members of the cabinet, men who had played pivotal roles in the formation of first independent government of Bangladesh during the War of Liberation. Never formally a politician, except for a stint at leading a student organization, Sheikh Hasina was married to a nuclear physicist and lived in the company of scientists and professionals. On the apocalyptic night of 15th August, she was in Europe with her younger sister Sheikh Rehana by destiny's choice and survived the mayhem. With the trauma of unimaginable proportion, they survived in exile. On the generosity of well-meaning friends, the two sisters' forlorn odyssey lasted 6 long years. The government of Bangladesh lapsed into a degenerative hybrid form. The vanquished force of the war gained ground and cleansing the country of the freedom fighters, a criminal revenge for the defeat on the battlefield. After 6 years, Sheikh Hasina returned home, an orphan in every sense, literally and politically. Upon arrival at Dhaka, from the airport she went to what remained of her residence and of her father, an abandoned building moist with blood and tears. But the government of the day denied her entry to her own home, the place where she had lost her entire family. She prayed for the departed soul, seated on the road, outside the compound, on her wailing wall. Undeterred by the tragedy meted out to her, Sheikh Hasina took up the reins of the party in disarray, slowly but steadily reclaimed the lost ground. She moved to every nook and corner of Bangladesh, reigniting lost dreams and organizing her followers, a trait she well inherited from Bangabandhu. More than a phoenix, she came back from the wilderness, inexperienced and traumatized, to a land soaked with blood of all her dear ones, embraced the people of the country as her lost family, and won their hearts. Winning the election of June 1996, she embarked upon realizing the unfinished dream of Bangabandhu and turned the country from a bottomless basket case to a land of promise and resurrecting it from despondency of hope. Food grains became plentiful, all the population had doubled since independence. Children, particularly girls, were getting enrolled in school. Health of mothers and children improved. Pockets of silent famine were rolled back, and a country reeling in power shortage was basking in light. But the defeated forces of our liberation war, who had orchestrated the mayhem in 1975, could not accept the return of the intrepid denizen. Attempt after attempt was made on her life, the last one in 2004, on the watch of the ruling BNP government that killed 24 people, including Ivy Rahman, the prominent Awami League leader and the wife of the General Secretary, Zillur Rahman, who later became the President of Bangladesh, seriously injured. Sheikh Hasina survived to history's choice. One more time, Sheikh Hasina was traced with destiny. And here I am, witness to one more round of fateful moments. In the courtroom, Sheikh Hasina walks in, dressed in ash-colored jamdani sari, greets everyone smilingly, shakes hands with the women lawyers thronging in the courtroom, and comes to the dock, looks at me and asks, "So here you are, with the prize of your honesty, integrity, and all that you have done for Bangladesh." I'm taken aback at her matter-of-fact comment and the warmth. I have no answer. She goes on, "Why don't you go away to some foreign country?" Gathering my wits, I reply, "Someone had to keep you company." Slightly abashed, she returns a smile. Duli, now a lecturer of computer science at Brack University, comes forward to the dock. Moments she stole from the prying eyes of the security forces, tears rolling, stunned at the twist of events. Sheikh Hasina embraces her in motherly affection. Sheikh Hasina stands up in the dock as the judge walks in and asks for permission to sit. I'm impressed by the sense of her propriety. The judge hardly takes any notice. Is he embarrassed to see the former Prime Minister in the dock? Does he feel guilty of trying history's reinstatement? Or is he part of conspiracy to put an end to her political pursuits? Or is it customary for judges not to get into eye contact with the accused? In that case, how is it compatible with the assumption of innocence of the accused? I'm disoriented. After some procedural discussions to which I hardly pay any attention, the judge adjourns the proceedings. As we are coming out of the courtroom, along with Sheikh Hasina, flanked by police and security forces, she pauses and points towards me, moments aloud, drawing the attention of people around. This decorated freedom fighter, who thought he would once more be recognized for his contribution to solving the power crisis in Bangladesh, instead stands on trial. What a mockery! I'm embarrassed at her generous comments. But I remember how unjust and malicious persecution eventually devours the perpetrators. O error, soon conceived! Thou never convert into happy birth, but kills the mother that endangered thee. I try reading the mind of the persecutors and assess the end game. In the name of the caretaker government, the country has been effectively taken over by the army with a civilian face in the front. Its agendas is long-term. It is experimenting with a government where power lies with the army, but the front desk is managed by international bureaucrats, civil society members, and abetted by a section of media, an attempt to depoliticize Bangladesh. The biggest threats of this process are two leading political figures of the country, Sheikh Hasina and Khaleda Zia. A theory of sorts have been circulated, -2 formula. Get rid of them and Bangladesh is all yours, Play-Doh. The cornerstone of this strategy is thus to convict the two leaders and ease them out of politics. Special courts have been set up with chosen people as judges, with promises of elevation to their bench once the job is done. Evidence is being fabricated by intimidating and coercing witnesses. Emergency has been imposed to deny fundamental rights of the citizen. Political activities are banned. The media are split between diktat and loyalty. Leading lawyers have been co-opted, threatened, or bribed to deny the accused effective legal support. On the civilian side, the Anti-Corruption Commission, albeit headed by a retired general, on the other, the main arbiter, the army, through its intelligence operative and apparatus, are implementing the design, a 21st century version of Orlean world. And all of these are being abetted by most of the international community, looking for a new solution to the noises in the developing countries. All looked well till the first flashpoint. The student unrest was being neutralized as it appeared, but power corrupts, and absolute power, without responsibility, as it is the case here, would corrupt absolutely to the bone. Stories have started circulating about army personnel amassing wealth through coercion, through anti-corruption drives, as a new pathway to riches. When diverse goals take hold, gelling of the power centers must come apart. On the other hand, I assume silence as acquiescence of people of Bangladesh is a sure recipe for disaster. It is only a matter of time that all will unravel and come to an end. History, on the long haul, is on our side.